are, those would have been windows. The room before that was the kitchen. If you go to the gift shop, that was their sunroom or library. Upstairs has always been a museum, and it's been open to the public since 1933. And it was called the Antelope Valley Indian Research Museum. So you would come over to the Edwards weekend home. They lived in Eagle Rock and be invited up to their private collection. Edwards actually taught at Lincoln High School just north of downtown. He taught industrial arts and design. So this is the home in 1931, and we know it's 31 because the museum hasn't lit up, nor has the tower structure on top of it. But you get a sense of the museum or the house against the landscape. Would you like to join us? We're just looking at some historical photographs. So now Edwards, in addition to teaching, in 1924 he started the California Scenic Company. What he and his business partner did was build theater sets for the Velasco Theater in downtown Los Angeles, which is still there, the Burbank Playhouse, the Los Angeles Grand Opera. So this home is framed out of California redwood. All of this is the most ubiquitous tree in the western Mojave Desert, right? This is Joshua tree. Now Joshua trees aren't true trees, they're actually part of the lily family, GOPR0135. And this is what they're more like. It's pithy like a palm tree. If you want to touch, you can't touch anything in the museum. There's a piece of Joshua tree in the gift shop that you can touch today. Unfortunately, he used it architecturally on the balcony, which is now closed to the public. But this height of the ceiling here is almost 4 stories. It's 38 feet. Now, Mr. Edwards, theater sets are built quickly, cheaply, and lightly, and they're just built and discarded. Edwards recycled and reused the theater set boards from his company, which is again right here. So if you look at the edge of any of the walls, you'll notice it's all theater set board. 1/4 inch cheap theater set board. It's just texturized to make it look more substantial. What's even more frightening is that the exterior was also theater set board. And as you can see today, it gets windy out here, it gets cold, hot, we get snow, we get rain. Fortunately, the second owner, Grace Oliver, stuccoed the building in 1945. And here's another photo of the building that you can see. This would have been taken by plane or a hot air balloon because you can't get this angle of view from the parking lot because of the pitch of the parking lot. Now, Edwards builds this home in the course of 4 years, and he builds it in sections. And so this next image is actually what he photographs in the natural landscape when he first gets it. So do you see where you're standing? In the natural landscape. Okay. Do you see where you are? So this is Paiute Butte. This was actually a waterfall. There was a hidden water tank on the 2nd story. Mr. Edwards would tell people he had a spring in his living room. The true spring was 3 miles south of here, Lovejoy Springs. And, oh, I didn't show you the correct image. That's what I was trying to show you. That's the natural landscape. Oh, it was off.
No wonder we were...
I know, you're like, okay, where are we looking? Come on, Bruce.
That's great.
Yeah, I scanned this 5 years ago. Oh my God. Okay, now we see where we're standing. Okay, sorry, I'm like. And then this is his wife, Rose, and she's standing right here in the natural crevasse. And then by the spring of 28, it's the living room. So we go from natural landscape. Edwards cites this property specifically for his home and definitely for the museum. Now, Edwards acquires 160 acres for free because of the 1862 Homesteading Act that was signed into law by Abraham Lincoln. An adult, 18 years of age, male or female, American citizen, could acquire 160 acres for free. If you live permanently on site for the first 5 years, dug a well, and if you use any water here today, it's actually from the original well. You also had to have grow crops. Now, during the 1920s, this valley was actually called the Alfalfa King. Ergo, we have the Alfalfa Festival in this valley. We have 2 aquifers in this particular part of the western Mojave block, and so the water table was quite high, although doing water-intensive crops. But that would have been done on the flats of the desert. And also the 1877 Desert Lands Act used that land grant, you had to flood the entire property. But clearly his use is not agrarian. He wants to build a museum and his weekend home. But he grows 2 crops of milo. They fell miserably on the southeast corner. And he builds a larger than 12 by 14 structure. And of the 160 acres he was homesteaded in 1933, we, the citizens of California, own 147 of those acres. Route 6 had just been opened, Sierra Highway, so a lot of people were coming from Los Angeles to homestead in the Antelope Valley. And you could kind of see those older homesteads by looking at the mature growths where those properties were. This is this room being constructed in 1928. You're going to be walking up here. So this is 1928. Again, he does it by himself with friends and family. And this is the first room that he actually does. So you guys see the scale against the landscape. And then this is this room being constructed. So we're standing right there in this area. He's building directly into Paiute Butte. And curiously, this butte was once called Peck's Butte. Edwards actually renames the entire mass after the Paiute Indians. So here we are. And then this is this room completed by 28. And again, he's just building it section by section. He makes architectural changes all the time to the structure. Like right now, these are flat windows. They actually become seating windows. And then this is where you'll be walking to, which is where the museum is built in 1931. So here it is, and then this is the construction, the framing in 31. The cases were always original. The intention was to have the private collection in the actual part of the structure. And he actually names his home Yatokia, which is anglicized Zuni for Rancho of the Sun. Now, a curious part of the story of this valley is also the American Indians. This site was actually an American Indian site, and we know that because we have pictographs, we have shelter caves, modified rock art. Through the first curator's analysis, this was probably ritual use of a site, not a village site. You can correct me, Dr. Bristow, at any point. Well, you've done excavation. Where the village site was 3 miles south of us, which was at this. Now, because of the San Andreas fault line, we have sag pumps and springs in this valley. So we have Moody Springs. Below us was this, Lovejoy Springs. Now I really need your help. Correct me if I'm saying anything wrong. This was 3 miles south. There was a developer. This area below us used to be called Wilsona. It was not called Lake Los Angeles. It was actually founded during Woodrow Wilson's presidency. In 1967-68, a developer from Los Angeles, Ray Watt, who did high-end and low-end development in Los Angeles, bought 4,000 acres, keep me going if I'm wrong, to create Lake Los Angeles. This was going to be the lake, the resource. But in doing so, in enlarging it, they collapsed it. Is that correct?
Well, there was a major spring all forever. And
this is Dr. Bruce Love. He's actually anthropologist, very familiar.
But I'm learning from you all the details that I didn't know before. But that lake was formed by the cattle ranchers who dammed the spring and created a lake for their cattle back at the turn of the century. Then the early people that lived out here in the 20s and 30s, they used this lake for recreation as well as for their livestock and stuff. And then when developers came in and created this new development, they killed the spring. They tried to pump out the spring and fill this artificial lake, and they killed the spring, and now that's all dried up.
So what you see now is a sandy divot of one of the natural springs. And because of the fault line, this was a village site. In fact, you excavated.
Oh, huge, major village site for 3,000 years.
And there was a burial that was actually...
There was a mass grave that was disturbed by the developers, and those remains are still at UCLA. We're actually currently working on trying to get them reinterred in the ground.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, what's curious about these springs is that there's been occupation of this valley for millennia with American Indians. Another site 24 miles southwest of us is Beryl Springs on Sierra Highway at 25th Street East and Beryl Springs Road. Upstairs, case number 24, you're going to see all objects that were found. Case 25 and 26, you're going to see objects that were found in Palmdale at the Beryl Springs site. One of which is this particular bowl. This is a cooking bowl. It's made out of soapstone or steatite. It would have been quarried, created on Catalina Island, and then it would have been taken by plank canoe by a Tonga American Indian across the 26 miles of the Pacific Ocean, and then it was walked from the basin to Palmdale. Also, you're going to see pottery sherds that are from the southwest that were found in Palmdale. You'll see a small piece of asphaltum or naturally occurring tar that comes from the coastal area, or even inland, the likes of Ojai. So definite occupation is valid. Then we have Lake Hughes, Elizabeth Lake, Fremont Springs, Willow Springs. So yeah, long occupations in this particular valley. So I think this museum, everything that you see is original to Mr. Edwards. So by example, this is signed H. Arden Edwards 28, Yaltokia. Again, that's the name that he gave this museum. And all the construction and the artifacts. It's basically a closed system where all the artifacts are remain. And actually, this museum at one point, although it was two private collectors, in 1939, Mr. Edwards sells the museum, the home, Yaltokia. Grace Oliver was visiting the valley in 1938. She was staying a mile southwest of the Cheeto Cabin, friends of hers. She saw this strange half-timbered revival in the distance.